Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Chris.
I'm a wandering runner. I need no partner.
We got Vince.
It's dangerous to go alone.
Oh, that's a good classic quote. Very nice. I'm Kia. Hi, welcome to the show. We are talking today about the second part of The Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, the manga, the video game, the ride. No, it's just the manga. Just the manga. We stopped it. If you didn't catch our last episode, we talked about Volume 1. We went through a whole lot of stuff, boy. We had young Link. He grew up into Big Link. Met a bunch of ladies. Got a horse. Did I hit all the major stuff
We hit
last time?
Shadow Link. It seemed like
he fought his mirror self.
Yeah, he fought his mirror self, which takes place in the water temple of the game. But as we're learning in this episode, we do not hit the water temple yet. So we're around the fire temple of the video game. So about 2 dungeons into turning into adult for the video game. We talked a lot about the video game and the history and how it compared in the previous episode. So I would recommend checking that out.
And I think the most important point that we should mention is that the story here does not completely match up with the video game. You don't go back and forth. He just turned into adult Link and is pretty much going to stay that way for the most part.
Me and Chris have actually both been playing the video game over the last few weeks since our last episode, so we may actually have some more insight into the game. Chris, did you end up beating it?
Ocarina of Time, yes, I beat Ocarina of Time like a week ago, Vince. Come on.
Oh yeah, I got stuck in the Shadow Temple and got 2-shotted by a boss, and then text Chris like, "Is it supposed to be like that?" And Chris like, "I got the bigger on sword. Like, I don't know what to tell you." And I'm like, "Well, this game is over for me now."
Yeah, I one-shot at that boss, so I was just like, I timed it right where he's just bouncing up and down. And I was killing him, and he never got a chance to attack me a second time. And I was like, well, that's the end of that.
But it was the farthest I've ever gotten in this video game. I saw 2 complete dungeons I'd never seen before, so I would, I know I'd consider that a success. Some of my criticisms I've had for the last 20 years of Ocarina of Time, not as relevant anymore.
Maybe 10 years from now, you'll get another dungeon.
Yeah. You can still go to the Spirit Temple if you just want to blow off the Shadow Temple and come back.
Oh, really? The Shadow Temple feels a lot like a
you
fucking
don't have
Doom
to do them in
level
order.
to me, but that's neither here nor there.
You don't have to do those 2 in order, and you don't have to do the first 3 in order.
Really? You were telling me that you were going to be doing some sequence breaking when you were texting me.
Yeah, and then I was very lazy about it and barely did any. I did 1 temple out of order. I do think the Forest Temple should be done out of order if you want to like ease yourself into it. But that's neither here nor there. I
think we're getting away from the topic at hand here, which is the manga. So we did just meet Sheik, who in this game, I don't remember, was this the case in Ocarina where Sheik is working for Ganondorf?
It's never made clear in the game. They never say that. She or he does seem to have like the run of the place. Like she goes wherever he wants. Shows up very fortuitously a bunch of times, and so it doesn't really contradict anything. It does kind of make sense that he is secretly working for Ganondorf. As a double agent, because then Ganondorf obviously would be like, well, I know where Sheik is. He's helping me. But yeah, here it's sort of he's deep undercover.
Yeah, but this game also the comic deviates a lot from the video game in that you see stuff from Ganondorf's perspective. It seems like he's aware of Link and sending things to stop Link, and so the bosses kind of render as things to stop Link from his quest, which from what I saw, I did not see Ganondorf at all in the adult segments. He laughed at me as a kid, and then I never saw him again.
Yeah, only in the Forest Temple. The Forest Temple, he talks to you. He says, I never should have sent that ghost or whatever it is, the Phantom, and says that you're getting some skill. That's the only time he ever talks to you until the end.
Right. Whereas, like in Wind Waker, like Ganondorf is you cut to scenes, and like most movies would cut to scenes of like a villain, like being aware, the Wicked Witch of the West or anything. Like that. Yeah, they've gotten closer now. I've got to send another villain.
Yeah, it's very,
He is kind of a Wicked Witch of the West in Wind Waker. He's got that big ass bird.
Yeah, but the thing is like far as an adaptation choice, I'm for it. I think it works. I
Yeah,
think it makes
that
the
works.
book hold better together. I think you get a little more of Sheik. Like this just makes me think of like how thin the story was of the Zelda video game and how much I still bought into it. Because like, oh, the Sheik person, they're so mysterious. I'm like, Sheik is a plot device to give me like a song, so I can warp to different locations. Like that's the extent of what they do.
so I think like I don't remember who made this distinction. I read it somewhere just about something else, but there's a big difference between like story and lore. Like it's not necessarily that it's telling you a massive story. It's that there's all these little nuggets of lore all over the place, and it's fun to discover them and find them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a bad comic book where. Like a bad superhero comic book. I'm sorry, where it's like I don't care about this, but there's so many little nuggets that can guide me elsewhere.
Yeah,
But,
and I think that's
fun.
where like our feelings of like the Wonder Woman movie came down. Is that I think you didn't really care for the Wonder Woman movie, and like to be fair, like some of the action sequences are kind of meh, but I like the feeling of what Wonder Woman like gave me. Do you know what I'm saying?
I get that. I think at the end, now we're talking about Wonder Woman. It's just because I'd watched too many DC movies in a row where it was all just wander, bad guys, wander, bad guys, wander, main bad guy. That's all.
And that's what like all of the MCU movies are
Right.
when you watch them. All the James Bond movies are. It's just, but when you see them, like yeah, but this,
Well, hey, Vince.
Now hold on.
You're forgetting that they're their dark reflection. They're not so different, you and I.
I know, right? But
that's like 5 Marvel movies where it's just like, what if a slightly stronger version, but evil of the same guy
they
you
weren't.
like?
Okay, now we're
hold
going
on.
off
Hold
of-
on.
Iron Man 1, he's fighting a shittier Iron Man.
Now listen,
Hulk,
I don't
he's
care
fighting a
about who they're
shittier Hulk,
fighting.
and
I
Iron
don't
Man 2,
care about who they're fighting. The journey is slightly different enough for me to feel like they're trying to give me a different story. That's
Right.
all. That's
yeah,
all.
and so it's more the vibe. And there's a moment in the video game where like Sheik does like the little like smoke bomb to run away, and Link's like what? And then in the background you can see Sheik like running away like a little goofball, and it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I love that scene, like the water temple, where you see Sheik hiding in a branch on a tree, and then jumps into the water.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's good stuff. Yeah. So anyway,
Well, hold on. I gotta mention because I keep forgetting to say this. We are at the end of this episode also starting Marvel versus DC or DC versus Marvel, whichever you want to call it. Whoa!
It alternates issue titles.
Longer. It does. It does. So I have to mention that. Come back at the end, or don't come back. Never leave. Never leave till the end. Okay, Chris, what's coming next? What were we talking about?
we'll be back right after this. Yeah. So we did the Dark Link fight. Does it go right to the water temple being finished, or is there something in between?
No, he goes to they do the Lon Lon Ranch, and I can't remember if we covered that in the
Oh,
We covered a little bit of Lon Lon Ranch, but this is when Ganon is pissed at Ingo for letting Link take this horse. All of a sudden, he's like, how did you let him get a horse? So they brainwash Ingo using Twin Rova. Was Twin Rova in the video game?
Yes.
yes.
Don't remember them at all. Okay.
I don't know if I saw them.
Yeah, they're the Spirit Temple boss, and
Okay.
they're also in Majora's Mask.
Okay.
That's
So
where
they're
I know
two
them better from.
two mean witches. They're flying around, and they brainwash Ingo. And so Sheik's job is to lure Link to the ranch. And we get a little backstory, like, "Hey, Sheik, why are you working for me anyways?" And he gives some reason that satisfies Ganon. So Ingo kidnaps Malin, who's like the daughter at Lon Lon Ranch. That one of those ladies that has the hots for Link. Talon, the dad, is very distraught. I'm not sure where he's at in all this, but Link goes, rescues Malin. Has to fight some bad guys. Sheik then fills him in on how to undo Twin Rova's brainwashing. How was that?
It's like a jewel in the ear.
Jewel, yeah. Had
Which
to
comes
break
up
that
a few
jewel.
times. They have like an actual like physical thing that that represents like them being evil rather than just like a mystical force or anything like that he has to shatter. And I think that even goes back to like Goma and the other monsters earlier in the story, at least in this adaptation.
Okay, yeah, I like that. It's
fine. If this was a movie, that'd be a good like visual signifier. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, this was a good little issue to get me back into it. I was remind me of what's going on in the story, remind me of Lon Lon Ranch, have a little fun with these Mario and Luigi looking guys, and go from there.
So I read the Viz Media translation, Kia. I know you read a fan translation of it. But like Malon is gone, or I'm sorry, Talon the dad. Talon the dad. Mario. He looks like Mario. Talon the dad's gone, and then he suddenly appears in a panel at the end, and there's just like it's not even in like the normal font, and it just says "Dad's back too," like real tiny, in the font on the bottom of the page, which really cracked me up. To like they're trying to like fill in like I don't know how this character came back into the field because we never saw him be rescued, and he was not in the town when this issue started. He's back though. Deal with it.
Yeah, I did see something like that. I don't remember how they translated it though.
He also has the line about maybe I could brainwash myself into getting some work done.
No, yeah, that was good. That was a good one.
Yeah, Malin definitely. She's like, well, I don't know. I think what's her name, Zora, has the most like rambunctious spirit of like feeling like a manga, love interest that gives the hero a hard time. But like Malin, she's like, Link, I don't know any Links. And I definitely heard like Misty's voice from Pokemon in my head, like in all her dialogue. And then when he like, saves her and uses his hook shot, she's like, well, maybe he's a hero. Which I thought was cute because like Malin is obviously like not even a second tier love interest. Like, get out of town. Like, get in line.
Well, she reminds me so much of Marin from Link's Awakening. And it may even be the same like character design. So I merged them in my head, and I like Marin. So
yeah, I think they are supposed to be kind of the same because she sings in the N64 game.
Yeah.
So and like that's Marin's big thing in Link's Awakening is she sings to the animal town.
And they have similar dress styles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're supposed to be similar.
Okay.
But yeah. So she's a lot of fun, and then they have like an adventure that is based on the video game where you save your horse in the game, and then it cuts out the great part of the game where you use a cuckoo to wake up the Mario guy, and they're like, oh, by the way, I saved the ranch while you were passed out, moron. And he's like, thanks.
Very nice. So this next chapter was a little all over the place for me. We started in Zora's domain, went into the desert to meet some of the Gerudo. Boy, what were we doing in the Zora's domain? I feel like before I realized we were there, we were already out of there.
Yeah, it was weird how they cut the water temple to nothing. Like it's literally like 2 pages.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what happened. Let's keep moving on because that's what the comic did. We get to the Gerudo Tribe. He meets Naburo. Was she in the video game?
Yep, she's the Spirit Temple Sage.
She a cutie. How did I not remember her? My goodness. So she's
the last person you meet that's warm for your form.
She's
also super creepy about it too.
Okay, that's fair.
She's like, oh, if I would have known you'd be such a handsome teenager, I would have made a stronger move against you as a child. You're like, whoa, what?
So we learned that she is also under Ganondorf's control. And at some point, a big fight breaks out. Sheik is there. I don't remember. I feel like a lot of these fights just kind of stem from a fight is happening. And that's pretty much it. Was there a reason for this fight here?
No, none of them. They're never fighting. There's never reasons for fights. They just
okay, good.
Yeah.
A nice horseback fight. We get Link, who's down for a little while. Sheik's rescuing him. They break the jewel on Naburu's head. And, Sheik is in a little bit of trouble, and Link goes to help. And
Link does get captured by the Gerudos at their pirate fortress.
He does.
Thief fortress, whatever.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he gets out. It's a lot of it felt like a lot of filler. A lot, like we said last time, this book isn't the greatest at action sequences. The pictures are all nice. It just doesn't always string together into a very coherent and then this is happening and then this is happening. It's just like, no, we're just fighting.
And it's funny too because you can tell there's so much where they kind of have the leeway to go off on their own and do their own thing, but then they'll just be like concept art of what the Gerudo's fortress will look like, and it's like accurate to the video game, and it's like, well, obviously they gave you this, and we're like, work this in somehow.
Well,
so you'll just have like establishing shots of like, or like in the water temple, the boss area. There's just like a accurate photo of what that will be.
Right. Well, I remember there was like one comic artist that I remember he used 3D modeling software for all of his backgrounds. So for like when he would draw, like New York City, he basically made like a 3D model of like a bunch of skyscrapers, and then he would pivot over, he'd pivot it and then basically trace it so he would have good perspective for his backgrounds. And that's the kind of vibe I got here is like, we got the 3D models, I pivot it, and then I don't have to design like what a fortress looks like from scratch. I can just geometrically make it. And it's very obvious that it's very geometric here because the lines are like perfectly straight in a way that no rest of this book is.
Right. Like I said, to me, it's just like they were handed like concept art of like, this is going in the game. They're like, well, we've got to put it in the book then.
That makes sense to me. I think that's, the game wasn't done when they were making it. What were you going to say?
Yeah, because I've never been to the Gerudo Village, so I have no idea how this... it looks visually similar to the Gerudo Village in Breath of the Wild, which I am familiar with. Just in terms of costuming, it kind of evokes the same kind of vibe for me. But yeah, this is a perfect time to mention, I was reading the Majora's Mask manga today, because spoiler alert, I really like this. And their afterword on the book said... So the first 2 issues came out at the same time as the video game, so obviously the video game wasn't done. So we were just killing time until the video game was ready so then we could know what the plot was. So the first 2 chapters just kind of like dick around and don't really get to the Majora's Mask plot because they don't know what's going to happen. And that explains a lot about this book as well. So.
Yep.
Because this book was made, we didn't mention it in this episode, but this book is made right around the same time as the video game in Japan. It didn't come out in the States till like a decade later.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The goddess statue in the Haunted Wasteland is also another where it's just like, this is just concept art. You just were handed this and like, this is what this statue is going to be. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll put it in there. Because they go through the desert and get there, and then Sheik gets injured.
Yes, and this is when Link discovers that there's a mark, the mark of the... that Sheik is, in fact, not a Sheikah, but Sheik is, in fact, has the mark of the Triforce. What? And this is going right into the next chapter. And while he's feeling Sheik up, he's also like, wow, Sheik's body sure is supple and fine and ladylike. What is that? I don't remember exact line.
She gets zapped by Twinrova, and Link is carrying him to safety. And he's like, wow, Sheik sure is light. And also, I'm very attracted to him. What's going on with me?
But then we get that reveal of like, oh, it's Princess Zelda. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, I guess for a second there's like a little, I don't know, some fight with Link, and he's on a horseback and he's shooting arrows. It's cool shots. I love them. It's just fun to look at these pictures and then keep on moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing I really hate about this in the video game, and I'm actually irritated they adhere to this in the comic, is once it's revealed she's Zelda, then she's transformed and put in her Zelda dress and costume, and I'm like, I'd really like to see Sheik without the mask, like, and Zelda like in a more in the functional Sheik costume, but like more obvious that she's Zelda. And I understand, like, from a 3D model perspective, they probably just didn't bother with it, and obviously they couldn't do like an unmasking because that's way too much work for a 3D model in 1994.
You just got you've only got so many pixels on the screen.
Yeah, so many blocks and polygons. They're not going to like show a polygon coming off of the model. Like, that's not going to happen.
No. And this is not Prince of Persia: Sands of Time for the PS2.
Right, because I would like that in between look of what like Sheik looks like or Zelda, and Sheik is more obvious that it's Zelda, because that. And this comic doesn't even like try to make those images. For a few pages it does, and then it's like, actually she's Zelda. Deal with it. She's in her dress now.
It's a full-on glamour, Vince. Yeah, that's just how it works.
And it's also glamour. It's very strange because like the book kind of wants it both ways, where it's like Zelda's like, oh, I submerged my personality into Sheik as part of my plan. I'm like,
Oh
what?
yeah, like Impa helped do that or something. Like
Yeah,
Impa,
it's just
it
like,
put her consciousness to sleep.
what are you talking about?
It's
You're
going
not,
deep cover.
like, it's very strange. Like, obviously, nobody here is trans. We can't speak for trans issues, and if Sheik is a trans icon, that's great. But it is very strange that it's like Sheik is a different person than me. It's like,
Right.
I
feel
didn't
like
even
that,
make that connection. Okay.
I didn't either. I just felt like, I because every time I play the video game, I'm trying to like picture, you know, how much of this is Zelda speaking to me, and we know that it's Zelda. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like
See, I feel
how
like that's
aware
a
how
stronger
aware is
choice.
yeah,
Like
how,
that makes
Right.
Zelda a stronger character to just say, yeah, that was just me pretending to be Sheik instead of, oh, I'm too dumb to be Sheik. I had to put myself to sleep and be a totally different person.
right.
yeah,
Like, I'm not-
And I don't think the
that's
video
kind of
game addresses
where
that.
I'm at too. Yeah, where I'm like, it makes Zelda a very weak character if she has no agency as far as being Sheik. If this is just a separate personality who is a guy.
I
Yeah.
wonder how much of this is just like papering over. Like they got halfway through the book and then realized, oh, this character is actually going to be Zelda. Like, how do we? Does this contradict what we've already written?
I feel like this is deepening the lore. Like I feel like they got at least something from Nintendo in
Okay.
1997 or whatever, because there's nothing that contradicts it really.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
and obviously I'm not an expert, but my understanding is that if you read the Legend of Zelda instruction manual, they are like, here's Sheik, it's a guy. Like they're not trying to like throw you off and being like, who is this mysterious figure? Is it a guy or a girl? It's like playing it, the US release, I didn't exactly know who was Zelda right away, but I was like, there's something with this Sheik character.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm profoundly dumb, as we've established, so I don't see these things coming. Like, it blew my mind when the pirate Tetra in Wind Waker. I'm just throwing spoilers out here. I don't give a shit. The pirate Tetra is Princess Zelda. Like that. Like,
That surprised you?
yeah, shit
That's like
surprises
the
me. I'm
most
profoundly dumb.
foreshadowed
I'm profoundly dumb. I'm on for the ride. I'm not looking to be like.
Who did you think it was going to be? Link's sister?
I just thought she was a rando pirate. Like, I was like, oh, cool. They've got some more female representation. In this video
Look,
game.
there's enough rando women in this book, right? Like, why not?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Vince. I get what you're saying.
Chris is inherently suspicious of anything that anybody's telling him, and I'm like, okay. And then that gets me into trouble. Okay, you're a pirate. Cool. That sounds good to me.
It's just like I've seen other forms of this media. I know what's going to happen. So yeah, I saw that.
How Bruce Willis survived that gunshot wound. I don't know. He had a long recovery.
Wow. Spoiler alert for Die Hard.
All right, so Twin Rova shows up.
They survived Twin Rova, yeah.
They got to find themselves a shield that reflects. And then Naburu, who is recently not brainwashed, brings it. She stole it from their temple and just brought it over. Okay, cool. Thanks, Naburu.
Oh yeah.
We get a real nice touching reunion with Zelda and Link and all that sort of stuff. But hey, then Ganondorf shows up and captures Zelda. Too bad.
I love that because it's like, all right, you're Zelda. Haha, now you're in a crystal. Deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do like how quickly it is. He's like, I found her. She's mine now. Which actually like speaks more to the power of like, oh, you really did need to hide yourself because he can see everything. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That was smart.
I did like the instantaneousness of that, but I don't like that it's hey, as soon as you go back to being Zelda, you're useless and you're trapped because that's what happens.
Now you're a
Princess.
MacGuffin again. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I do feel like the dialogue line, Princess Zelda, you foolish traitor, is in the video game, which is hilarious because it's just like, she didn't actually ever start working for you. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you think Sheik did in this version, but like Zelda never. You're like, Zelda, you traitor.
Yeah, she's not a traitor. So what happens next chapter? We learn a little bit more about the Gerudo Tribe. Yeah, Chris, you're saying Gerudo. Is it ever spoken in one of the games? I always had Gerudo in my.
Only Breath of the Wild, I think, has spoken dialogue. Maybe Skyward Sword does, but I don't think. But it's only in certain cutscenes. And I don't think they ever mention the Gerudo. And
yeah, I don't know.
and the way that Zelda is just like translated over time, where the characters kind of, it's just like Legends where things get kind of twisted every game. Like it could be pronounced one way in one game and completely different in a different way. So where are we?
It's probably Gerudo, but I don't know.
We're getting into chapter 8 here, where they learn about how...
my chapter's called Ganondorf Defeated, which, spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's the one. Link is learning that in the tribe they have, in the Gerudo Tribe, they have one man who's born every 100 years, and that man is destined to be their leader. Which, for these gender studies topics that we've been discussing, that's another kind of weird, weird little
don't know whether that works biologically, but two, sure. Okay, I don't know why this mediocre dude needs to be destined to be their leader, but okay, sure.
Well, right, basically Gerudo and just find Hylians.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very Wonder Woman-ish. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's a little bit like, who's that, Game of Thrones, that King Beyond the Wall, who's like the only dad, and he just like... No, never mind.
No, I like the getting Hylian men and getting their genetic and just loving them and leaving them. That makes that works better for me.
And then if they have a boy, that boy is king. If they have a girl, they're like, another one.
And then, so we learned that Nabooru is also a sage, one of the 6 sages total. Is that how many we had total?
Yeah, I was surprised how quickly this game was wrapping up when I was actually playing it, because I got always through the water temple. The fire and water temple is pretty much always where I would stop. And I'm like, oh, Vince, there were only 2 more dungeons left. You could have just plowed right through it. Like, why did you wait? For some reason, I thought there were 8 dungeons after being an adult. And I'm like, this is too much. I've only done 3 of these. There's 5 more of these to go. This is too much. But apparently, there's only 2 more.
There's 2 more dungeons, and then there's 1 more ending dungeon, which is, they sort of hand wave at it that he has to go into Ganondorf's castle. They don't show all the like puzzle solving he has to do to get it through it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So yeah, he shows up there. The 6 sages combine their power to, help open something or other and help him get in there.
It really bums me. That like the characters I met are these sages that like sacrifice their lives. Basically, like, we're done.
Yeah.
Like it bummed me out when like Saria left in the video game. I'm like, oh, like you're my best friend, and now you're just gonna live in a crystal and like work as like a shield like resource to protect the sacred realm, as it were, which is from Link to the Past. But yeah,
but that's the bittersweet ending of the game. To spoil the ending of Ocarina of Time, is after seeing all the like regular people celebrating, you get to see all the sages who are like stoically like, well, we did it. Like they can't join in with everybody else, but like they're sort of able to celebrate as a group, because they know that this is their job now, basically.
Yeah, and I think that this game does that a lot better than like A Link Between Worlds. But I think the comic not as much, but I think the game does a really good job of establishing like when you're doing the episode of, okay, I'm gonna go do this forest temple, and then my childhood best friend is gonna be the sage and basically sacrifice herself. And then I'm going to go help Darunia, who I helped as a child, and then he's going to sacrifice himself so he can then provide help in this final battle, and then also like finally seal Ganondorf away.
Well, I think that's one of the ways that a video game helps tell a story, and that you have to overcome some challenge, which is like fight, dungeon, boss, and then you get a nugget of story out of that.
Yeah,
as like your reward, But here, they're trying to meld it all together, but the fight comes off as very not connected to it a little bit.
Yeah, but I like the plot point, and I think it works really well, is that every victory has a loss.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool. And not atypical of narratives that I usually read or watch.
Yeah.
Or play.
Yeah. Well, and I do feel like they do try to work that in when Nabooru is like, I'm going with you, Link. Like, the 2 of us, we're going to take down Ganon. And like she shows up to Ganon's castle, and the Sage of Light, Roru, is like, actually, Nabooru, you're a sage too. You need to like beg out of this fight right now, because we need you with the other sages. And she's like, oh, okay. So it is interesting. Like, that's kind of the way they do that, is they take her off the table that way.
Yeah.
But it's not quite the same. Yeah. So they have their big fight, which actually, I mean, you haven't gotten to it, Vince, so I don't want to spoil it.
I saw a Let's Play like 5 or 6 years ago, so it looks visually very similar. Like that staircase, I remember very clearly.
Kia, have you beaten Ocarina of Time? Do you know how this works with the reflecting damage and organ and everything?
That. Yeah, I remember a lot of that. It was a long time ago, but I remember it.
It's very cool, and I think the manga does a decent job of showing that this is the fight. And like the lore stuff, like you mentioned, it's there, but it's very like in the game, you're kind of like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. I feel like the manga does a slightly better job of explaining like what the hell is going on, which is basically Ganon is trying to provoke you to show up to the castle so that he can merge all the pieces of the Triforce together, which I don't know why he couldn't do that any other way, but this is the way he's going to do it.
Oh, so I remember seeing this in this book. It's because it was inside of Link and Zelda.
Yeah, the
Triforce. Three of them had to be in the same room.
The Triforce is 3 different prongs: the Triforce of Power, Courage, and Wisdom. And I believe Zelda's Wisdom.
Yes.
And
Link is Courage.
Yeah, and Ganondorf's Power. And if you have one of them, you can like do all sorts of fucking shit. And I don't even think we talked about this. Basically, like in Link to the Past, it was presented that there was a light world and then another world called the Sacred Realm. And what had happened was and Link to the Past takes place after this game, although it came out before. And Ganon at one point had gotten sealed. He'd gotten into the Sacred Realm, and he had corrupted it and turned it into the Dark World. And then they sealed him in the Dark World. And that's what this is. This is the sealing war from Link to the Past. This is what creates the Dark World from Link to the Past.
Oh, I see. Okay. So we get a nice big fight. We think we've destroyed Ganon, but he comes back in his giant piggy form. And they have another fight. It's good stuff. We win. Good work, Link. I knew you could do it. Zelda then says, all right, well, your work here is done. It was great. I'm going to go ahead and send you back in time, back home. And Link is like, but I love you. I want to stay here with you. He doesn't say that. He almost
He does say, I love you in mine. Or she says, I love you. She says,
I think, yeah, that's right. She says, I love you. And then he gets transported back to being a little kid living with the Kokiri. And I'm very curious to know how things go from here. Like, does Ganon still exist in this world, and do we still have to suffer through 7 years of hell?
So welcome to the 3 Zelda timelines, Kia.
Oh, I see.
Of the bullshit of how do all the Zelda games tie together? So there's the what the fuck is it?
We don't have to get into it.
There's the universe. There's the universe that we just saw where adult Link just killed Ganon. There's also a somehow timeline I don't understand. There's also this child Link timeline that now Ganon's off the table, and so everything's happy. And like several games splinter off of this child Link one. And then there's a one where adult Link failed, which I don't understand how every video game should have a failed timeline, but whatever. Where adult Link failed, and that spawns, I believe, Twilight Princess, if I'm not mistaken. But
that spawns Wind Waker, doesn't it?
No, Wind Waker is still after they defeated. I believe they defeated Ganon, but it's bullshit. Either way,
he comes back and then they freeze.
Nintendo's official timeline, I think the best way to interpret Nintendo's official timelines is they didn't have a plan. People wanted them to have a plan, so they cocked up some bullshit that doesn't make sense. But basically, this young Link,
they're all standalone stories as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about it.
Majora's Mask,
And like Breath of the Wild, Kia, you were saying you started playing that recently.
I did, yeah.
Breath of the Wild has locations and characters who are named after like Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening locations, which are canonically never happened.
Right.
So, obviously it doesn't matter. It's just a reference. All of it happened and none of it happened. It's, like you can like whatever continuity you like. Although, I think Majora's or Ocarina of Time, the standard continuity is that it did happen, that it created the timeline split. But basically everything after that, who cares?
Yeah, it's more multiverse for me.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's more or less what happened here is that the Sealing War is that Ganon was trapped in the Dark World, which then you get like from Link to the Past. Is that light world, dark world paradigm. You also get that Child Link from this now goes off on adventures. The thing that bothers me about this book and the video game, but more so this book, is the idea that Link aged 7 years, but he shouldn't be more like mentally mature by 7 years. He's still that child, just in an adult's body, but somehow he's an adult. Although he's seen a lot of shit, but now he's cast back into his child body, and he's seen a lot of shit. So where does he go from here? And I know he goes on adventures to just like go protect Hyrule and go explore other things, and that's what directly leads into Majora's Mask.
Okay,
I think
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is he really 7 years more mature? Because I don't think I really see much of anything that tells me he's more mature. He's just like courageous, and he always has been.
So why was he chilling for 7 years? That's the thing I don't really get. Like, was he so he could just be physically stronger, or like what?
Yeah, he's gonna get ripped, Vince.
You know,
Wait,
he's got
he
his balls
chilling.
got to drop. He's got to be, virile enough to fight Ganondorf. He can't do that as a child.
Yeah.
Wait, are we saying that this was like cryogenic chamber style time travel, where he didn't really travel through time? He just like was frozen.
He was a child,
Yeah,
and then suddenly he's 7 years older, and he's an
Well,
adult.
I thought that was like just magic. Like, hey, this is the right time. This is how old your body's going to be to start being
but he
strong
should
enough to hit Ganon with the sword.
But he should be still mentally the child that he was, right?
Sure, and I'm saying there's nothing in this book that proves to me he's not still mentally that child.
So why? So
Yeah,
why did they make him wait 7 years?
A changed character.
So, all right, so maybe they had to wait 7 years.
That's what I'm saying. He's got to be ripped. He's got to have balls.
Yeah, and maybe this is when Ganondorf is at his most vulnerable. Like, he's cocky. He has to have been in charge for 7 years and believe he's won, Maybe that's got something to do.
And they wanted the light world, dark world paradigm of like 7 years like younger. And we didn't even go into this, but like in the Spirit Temple, and there's a few quests where you're required to jump back and forth through time, and you actually have to solve some parts of the puzzle of the Spirit Temple as a child.
Hey, yeah, and also it's just fucking cool to grow up and then be a little kid again, and then grow up again and go back and forth. Because otherwise, what would that video game have been?
Yeah, it's really fun. Because I was playing my Ocarina of Time file that I got when I got my 3DS like in 2012. And I played through like the Forest Temple, so me going back to like the Water Temple and the Fire Temple, like seeing the future, it had been 8 years for me since I'd last played some of these things and seen these characters as a child, as my child Link form. So I was like, oh, well, it's kind of like nice to see, like, because I got to like Lake Hylia or like Hylia, and I was like, oh wow, it's drained and it looks all sad, and the clouds and the sky scorched. Like, this is really like a bummer. This is not the Lake Hylia I remember. So I actually
just imagine. Just imagine if it had been a time jump of 7 years where Link is like a young adult, he's having fun, he has disposable income, and then he pulls a sword from the stone, and now he's a father.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what about it? What if it had been a different kind of time jump where they tell Link, like, hey, you just can't do anything for 7 years. Just go hang out in this room. Here's a bunch of books to read. Here's a bunch of video games to play and hang out for 7 years.
That's your opposite though. Like that's your like Lion King, Hamlet, like exile for 7 years.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes.
Yeah. Link swings his sword now that he's a father and immediately throws out his back and needs to take like 2 weeks off.
That's a good video game, like a rehab story. It kind of it makes me think of like Metroid, where you start off like Metroid Prime, right? You start off with everything, but then you lose it and you have to regain it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fun level up system. Like, hey, you kind of let yourself go. You got to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love about Breath of the Wild, the most recent Zelda game. And Kia, I don't know if we mentioned like in the actual episode or in the pre-recording that you started playing this, but I like that Link has been frozen for 100 years.
Whoa! Spoiler alert! I don't think I knew that yet.
It's the first moment. It's the first moment of the game. He's been frozen. Okay. He's been frozen for 100 years, like shit went bad.
Oh, you're right. They did tell me that. They did tell me.
And so he hears like visions or like has memories of Zelda, but like there's characters that are like they're like Lord of the Rings, like elves just live for a long time, so they still remember Link from 100 years ago when like shit went bad, and Zelda's like, we got to freeze you for 100 years, and then we'll just try again, like, which is very very evocative of this story. It's very interesting how like Zelda just repeats itself in interesting ways.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I guess that's it. Did we read the bonus story? Vince, did you read that? I don't know if
I didn't like the adult bonus story, but I did like the Skull Kid stories. I like the Skull Kid story.
The Skull Kid story was real cute. They're putting on a play about a prince.
It's Link as a child. It's just like an earlier
scene. Before any of the Navi stuff, before he becomes whatever.
Yeah,
they're putting on a play. They want Link to be the main prince of the story, but that dumb jerk Mito, he wants to be the main lead, and so they have an audition where, boy, Mito just loses. Everybody votes for Link. They have to make masks for this play. The mask gets stolen by Mito, who was like, all right, it was just a prank, but then it really goes missing. So Link goes into the Lost Woods. They meet this, did you say a Skull Kid? In my translation, it was a Stalk Kid. Like a stalk?
It's Skull Kid. It's the same kid from, I don't know if it's the exact same Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, but there's that dude that lives in the Lost Woods. It's that kid.
Great.
It seems like it is in Majora's Mask because he's like, hey, it's that kid from the woods I know. So it seems like they have a relationship.
So he had stolen this mask, and he was wearing it, and Link says, actually, that's my mask. And he says, oh, okay, here you go. I just really liked it because I don't have a face. It would have been nice to have a face. And he says, oh, well, I guess you can have it then. You can have a face. You want to come to this party that we're throwing? Yeah! And then Skull Kid gets brainwashed, says he hates this face. I want a better face. I'm going to steal your girlfriend, and I'm going to take her face. And that was pretty cool. That was a twist. I didn't see it coming.
It really blows my mind how elegantly Majora's Mask's like fits in with like the lore of the previous game of Ocarina of Time's like masks, which are such like a side concern for me. Like I didn't really ever deal with the masks and the mask trading or wearing them in Ocarina of Time, but like narratively, all of it works. And then they become like a major focus of Majora's Mask. I think that's really cool. I just like that short story. It felt like, and this is probably an example for no one, but I really like the Marvel Star Wars comics from the 70s that came out in between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, where they literally had like just telling stories in the world, but couldn't like move the narrative forward. And they're just like weird like stories in that universe, with like a lack of fundamental understanding of what Star Wars is going to become. And that's what this felt like to me. It just felt like a weird Luke Skywalker side story of Luke's time on Tatooine, and it gave me like good nostalgic vibes for a 70s Star Wars comic, which is a really weird comic, but that's what it felt like to me, and it worked for me. It was like a good story in that world, in that time period that I wanted to see more than whatever the other story was. I can't remember what it was about. I just kind of checked out of it. I kind of skimmed it, and I was like, I don't like it.
Yeah, the other story was about the bird people from Wind Waker.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about... Wait, was it the same type of people? Yeah, it would have been.
It was, yeah.
Well, it wasn't very exciting.
I remember sorting mail for them.
Yeah. It was like, oh, this bird is hurt. Let's help it. Oh, this bird's kind of a jerk. And then, oh, the bird's people are coming back for him. Okay, great, we helped them.
Yeah, it turns out he's like the prince of birds, and that he's like a failure to his bird race because he hasn't hit puberty yet. And so he basically needs to learn to be fearless. He sees Link fighting those stupid little dancing guys from the Fire Temple, and he's like, oh, if Link can do it. And so Link's about to fall to his death, and he saves him. It's all right. You guys are negative on it, but it
was fine. It was fine. I was just like, all right, I don't think I needed that story. That's all.
Yeah, it's weirdly, in the manga, it's at the very end of the story, and they should probably put it right before the Water Temple, because it's just like, it's a nice little filler story that's like not that different than saving the ranch as far as like the stakes are low, nobody cares.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out exactly where it fit, and I couldn't figure out why Link was chilling for so long, dealing with this when he had stuff to do. Yeah.
Yeah, Vince. This is neither here nor there, but I love fishing in Ocarina of Time, and so and so when I went to go fishing to go get the gold scale as an adult, I went in there. There's a trick to getting the big fish that I normally do. So I stood on a log that you're supposed to stand on and cast out for the fish, and within I would say 15 seconds. It just jumped into my hands. Like literally, I didn't even have to reel it in. Like the fish was just like, "Here, take me." I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm not gonna fish this game."
Very nice. Good manga. Vince, you are gonna read more Zelda mangas. Are you gonna read more?
I'm halfway through Majora, and the Majora is a lot shorter. I think it's only 10 chapters. Maybe about 250 pages, and it comes. And the collection I got also comes with Link to the Past. And I'm happy to say that they change art styles, and the Link looks different in the Link to the Past than he does in the Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask. And,
that's cool.
And they're working on, and it's still not done. They've been doing Twilight Princess. It's 6 volumes long already, and it's not done. Like not 6 chapters.
Twilight Princess?
Yeah, they're not fucking done yet. They're like it's Snow Peak.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I know, but I don't know what.
I think it'd make a good manga.
I guess.
I don't
like
know if
the
I want
lore
that
for that.
kind
Like
of
that's
manga,
you're
though.
talking about story versus lore.
I don't know if I want like 7 books
out
of
the lore for that
Princess.
game was too much.
All right.
I did not care about it.
There's
a
Four Swords Adventures one though that I am like chomping at the bit to read, and then like one of the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons Game Boy Color games. Then I'm like, that'd be fun to read, because I don't give a shit about the story, so it might be fun to just check out like, because these books like. They just give me the imagery that I've seen, but then like flesh it out. Like it's not a substitute for playing the game, and it obviously doesn't adhere to the games that closely. But I think they're fun adaptations, and they let me see stuff in that world and remember like, oh yeah, I do remember that part. That was fun.
All right. So here's my next question: is this going to lead you into being more open to trying other manga?
Yes, but I think that it's going to require stories that I care about. Like
that's every comic book or story that you read.
You know, like I mean, the thing is like there's a lot of video game stories I just and Japanese anime stories I just like immediately check out of, and the one I'm thinking of right now is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it was a
hold on. There's so many other stories out there. I'm just talking about an art form.
But I'm on board for manga. I'm on board from reading right to left. But I think that I'm not going to just the way that when I started reading comic books was I will read any comic book that people say is good. I don't have time for that anymore. So if you threw a bunch of manga at me, like if you threw, I don't even know because I get manga and anime confused. Like I don't know what's based on what anymore. But like if you gave me a bunch of Naruto, like maybe I'd like Naruto. I don't know. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't know. Usagi Yojimbo. I don't know. Cromartie High School is what you liked. If there was a Persona manga, I think I'd be in for it though, because I like the Persona story. But
pretty sure there is.
The game takes too fucking long to play. But if there's a Persona manga, I think I'm all in.
I feel like there's a manga of everything. There would have to be. Yeah. All right. Very good. Chris, any closing thoughts from you?
Good manga, good video game. Vince, you need to get good and finish this game already. Like
I'm pretty close to the end.
I told you like a week ago when I beat it. Yeah. Like I got to the Spirit Temple and I was like, well, I'm done with this. And like an hour later, I was like, well, here I am at the ending.
Yep. It's way breezier of a game than I thought, and it was very pleasant to play over the last week. There's some bullshit in it, but just look at a walkthrough. Like if you get stuck, like it's an old game. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's a fun game. Obviously it's not the greatest game that was ever made in human history or anything like that, but it's fun. And like I said, it's fun to just go fishing, to go do like mini game stuff. I think it's a well done game. Anyway, let's move on. Kia, do you want to have your final thoughts on Zelda before we move on?
I do not. I've said enough. Let's keep going. DC versus Marvel, everybody, baby. Oh, the worlds collide. Oh my God, what's it going to be? Who's going to win? Who's going to take the cake? What is this?
If Marvel doesn't win, I'll kill myself.
What is?
Whoa.
What? I have no idea.
I said, I think you should leave reference.
I have no idea what any of DC versus Marvel was. I just know that it happened, and I don't know what it entailed.
I remember a friend of mine in, I want to say, 5th grade brought the first issue to school, and I remember certain images from this. I remember reading this. I remember specifically Superboy with what I thought was a cool bowl haircut, holding 2 bikini-clad women and thinking, this is sexy, as a 10 or 11-year-old, which is fucking insane.
Now, as an adult, you know that it's actually when Bullseye and Batman meet. That's the sexy scene.
That is the sexy
Because you're like Colin Farrell finally meets Christian Bale.
Yeah. But like I was trying to look, and I could not find, either my resources are not very good, but people wanted to talk about what the comic was rather than like the history behind it and like what made it happen. And I know that there were a lot of DC Marvel crossovers before this. I remember like a Spider-Man meets Superman book, and it kind of sucked from like the 70s, where they're like have a misunderstanding like how Spider-Man would have with any other hero, and they're like, hey, who are you? And then they fight, and then they team up to fight some bullshit. So it's not like DC and Marvel hadn't collaborated before this. This is a mid-90s comic, by the way.
Right.
But I don't really know what prompted them to say, like, now's the time to do it, other than they just like, yeah, let's do it. It's a $3.95 comic in 1996, though. It's insane. Like, how expensive it's a big comic. It's 32 pages, but still, like, that's too costly, as far as I'm concerned. But
was this like industry-wise? Was this right before comics started failing?
It was after Death of Superman.
Yeah,
this is after the bubble has started bursting, as far as like values and shit. So this is like 1996. So this is after, you're not seeing a bunch of new number ones. Like the trading card bubble has completely collapsed. So Marvel is not in good shape because they bought a trading card company. And yeah,
exists?
Image existed for about 5 years now, or 4 years. So yeah, it's not at the peak of a boom or anything like that. I think they're starting to go towards a valley, actually.
So there's also a timeline in this same area where comic books used to be sold like in grocery stores, that I'm told about, in convenience stores. And that transition happens to where comics are predominantly just sold in comic book stores. And that happens around the same time, right?
I feel like maybe that's true. I was still reading comics in drugstores right around now.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
remember
definitely
going to our
possible
grocery store and my mom like doing all of her shopping and me reading like stuff like Wizard magazine, but also like This Ain't Your Daddy's Hobgoblin and like random issues of the Clone Saga. I remember reading them just while sitting there, but I have no idea what that was.
I'm glad you bring this up, because this comic for me has that same feeling of like, oh, comics are just things that exist. If you try and tell me that somebody wrote this comic, I will disagree with you and call you a liar. I don't think anybody wrote this comic. It's just one of those things just appears on a shelf.
Right, because it's an accurate transcription of what happened, Kia.
Yes, exactly. Should we? Okay, let's start talking about what this is. I think
it's written by Ron Mars, who isn't that normally an artist? Is he our like fill-in? I can't remember. Now I should have done my research. Is he our fill-in at the end of like Thanos comics that we've read?
No, he is a Green Lantern writer, is how I know him.
I'm thinking of Ron Lim. Okay.
Yeah. He had a lengthy run for Kyle Rayner Green Lantern.
Okay.
Very good. So we have Ron Mars doing the writing. Art by Dan Jurgens and Claudio Castellini.
Which is
Dan Jurgens I've heard of. Claudio,
I was going to say, it's a huge drop-off. When like I turned the page and Dan Jurgens wasn't drawing it, I was like, what the hell is this?
Dan Jurgens is like the image of good 90s comics to me in terms of like clean art. Like he's not the greatest writer and he's not the greatest artist, but he was lured to Marvel from DC after he did a lot of work on Booster Gold, and he did a lot of work on the Death of Superman. And he was a big,
yeah, I was gonna say he wrote a lot of Death of Superman and also drew one of the books.
Yeah, he drew and wrote the final issue of Death of Superman, which we covered a year or two ago. He drew all that. So he's like my definitive. And then he went over to Spider-Man and was told he could have his own book, but then Spider-Man was like mired in the Clone Saga at the time, so he didn't really get to have much independence. He was kind of pissed off of it. In more recent years, and by more recent years I mean the last 15, he did the Booster Gold book with Jeff Johns, and has kind of shepherded Booster Gold. But in terms of like clean, not super cheesecakey 90s art, I really like Dan Jurgens. I think some of this imagery in this one, like I love that. I love his Ben Reilly Spider-Man. I love it.
Yeah.
It looks really good to me.
Yeah, and like his Joker looks very good. Like his art is very good. And then, like I said, we get to the other. I don't want to pick on the other artist too much, but it's a whiplash when you turn the page, and suddenly you got the X-Men, and they're like, you're like, who is that? Oh, that's Storm. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Storm, who is like 5'10" and weighs 125 pounds, by the way, according to the stats. Which I'm like, that's impossible.
Normal stuff that is physically possible.
Yeah, but I don't know how this comic came together. I think based on like publication wise, they alternate where DC published 1 and 3, and then issues 2 and 4 were published by Marvel, and those are called 1 and 3 are called DC versus Marvel, and then 2 and 4 are called Marvel versus DC. And I believe that's how they did their revenue split, is that DC had 1 and 3 and Marvel had 2 and 4.
Interesting.
But this cover, I want to start with this cover because this cover is bonkers. Because it seems to think that they compare these characters the same way. So like the top of the thing is Superman and Hulk, probably the smallest characters on the cover. So like, okay, the two strongest people. I wouldn't equate Hulk with Superman. I'd put Captain America, but sure. And then it's Flash and Quicksilver, and I'm like, that makes sense. There's Speed Silver, and then Shazam and Thor, and it's like '90s Thor, which I don't like the.
Fair enough.
But I'm like, meh. I mean, I don't love it. Aquaman, Namor, okay, I'm on board. Tim Drake, Robin, and Jubilee, okay. Wonder Woman, Storm,
sidekicks, I guess.
Yeah, Wonder Woman, Storm. I feel like they bring different things to the table. Superboy and Spider-Man, Spider-Man all the way.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
That's the really weird one. That in the voting, one of the votes was between Spider-Man and Superboy. And it's like, who do they think was going to win this? Like, such a mismatch.
And then Captain.
That's such a like Duke versus like Creighton State, where you're like, I don't know, where should I put my money?
And then Captain America and Batman. Okay. And then the biggest character on the entire cover, Lobo and Wolverine.
Another vote that I was like, gee, who do you think is going to win this?
Yeah, so we didn't mention that there is a voting aspect to all this, where at the end of the issue, they tell fans, like, hey, there's going to be some big fights in issue 3. We need you to vote on who the winner's going to be. And I'm like, oh, okay. And most of these, like, I'm looking at them, I'm like, yeah, I know. All right. Wonder Woman versus Storm. No way. It's got to be Wonder Woman. Wolverine versus Lobo. Of course, Wolverine. Superboy, Spider-Man. Of course, Spider-Man. Hulk, Superman. Of course, Superman. But Batman and Cap? I mean, I feel like it's got to be Batman. They're not going to let Cap do the job just to get Batman over.
Not 90s.
I mean, they are.
Not 90s.
Kia, you picked some of the winners, but I've got some surprising information about you, for the 90s X-Men, which is that they are more popular than anything.
Oh, okay. So Storm takes over. All right.
Yeah, because cool. 90s Cap and 90s Wonder Woman are probably not very popular compared to.
No. That's fair. All right.
But I also inherently, when I'm reading that voting page, we're skipping entirely past this issue, but we'll get back to it. Yeah. I inherently find heroes fighting heroes not interesting to me.
Yeah, it's so why?
The idea of Batman fighting Carnage, yes, I want that. I don't give a shit about. Or Spider-Man fighting the Joker, hell yeah, we're on board. That sounds great. Batman fighting Captain America, don't care. Batman fighting Red Skull, yes, I'm on board.
I'm into that. Yeah.
Vince, compare their power levels for a moment. Have you considered their power levels? Who has higher power levels?
I just don't care.
I
don't
do not
care
care
if
about
Hulk
power
can beat
levels
Hulk.
at all.
Well, he's an Omega level mutant. I don't give a goddamn shit.
I mean, I understand, but on the other hand, like I feel like Thing versus Hulk has been a thing in Marvel comics for forever, and it's the exact same thing where it's just like, ooh, Hulk is one power level stronger. Can Thing's cleverness defeat him? Whereas, that's exactly what.
And don't get me wrong. And like Marvel had like a 4-year stretch of events where it was always the heroes fighting heroes. It was like House of M was like them fighting themselves. Civil War was them fighting themselves. World War Hulk was them fighting Hulk. Like I get it. Like, but Magneto's there. Let's fight Magneto. He's cool. I want to see.
Yeah. I want to see Magneto and Doctor Doom versus Lex Luthor and I don't know who, some Batman villain.
Yeah. I don't care.
Yep. So what is the story? We don't really get much of a story here in this first issue.
Yeah, what is the story?
Everybody getting okay. We start with Spider-Man and some bright light sends him.
But it's funny because like Marvel, what exemplifies to me is that Marvel's like continuity is so fucking in flux compared to DC's that we're not dealing with. We're dealing with Ben Reilly, Clone Saga, Spider-Man. We're not dealing with Peter Parker. We're not dealing with our boy Peter.
Yeah, but they pretty quickly in this book say, you know what? We don't care. Yeah. We're just going to call him Peter Parker.
Let's call him Peter Parker.
I love it. I love it. I love that that's the way they paint over that.
Yeah. So Peter Parker, Spider-Man, gets this bright light, sends him to Gotham, and he meets the Joker. Okay.
And he talks with the Joker. And he talks with the Joker. He has a conversation where he talks with the Joker. The Joker's like, "We've met before." And Spider-Man, Ben Reilly's like, "I don't know if I can remember that." And Ben Reilly's not like, "Oh, maybe the clone did that. That would make sense to me." He's just like, "I don't remember that." I don't. It cracks my shit up that the Joker is like scratching his chin, like talking to Spider-Man like a normal person. That shit cracks me up. I think that's so funny.
Yeah. And then ends the scene by parachuting off a building and wearing a Joker parachute and gives Spider-Man a Joker card. And he's like, oh, what an odd fellow.
And he's like, lucky for you, I don't care about bugs. I only hate bats. I'm on board.
Right.
I'm on board. That's a good start to me. This part, on board.
We get Juggernaut fighting the X-Men, and Juggernaut gets sent to Metropolis to meet Superman. And here, I feel, was the book's first misstep, because you're trying to tell me that Spider-Man and Juggernaut are the two that you're going to open with? I'm like, all right, I don't know. Juggernaut, really?
I feel like J. Jonah Jameson has been there for like a month, though, which we'll get to later.
Well, okay, so we'll get to that later. There's some guy who's like trying to hold the light at bay, but it keeps
and
going.
We didn't really mention it, but yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Spider-Man sees like a cardboard box with like lights coming out of it, and then all this teleporting starts happening.
Yeah, we don't really know much about it, but we are getting glimpses at what the story might be whenever they decide to start telling it. We get flashes of everybody else getting transported. Captain America, Wonder Woman, Hulk, Superboy, like everybody. We get a scene of Bullseye holding a knife to Robin's head while Batman's talking him down.
That's cool.
This was a fine scene. Yeah. He was like, he's just not expecting Batman. He's like, who are you? Well, you hit harder than Daredevil. So he gets taken out.
Well, there's a bullshit scene where then Batman says, like, Tim, you should go talk to Alfred about antiseptic cream. Puts some antiseptic. I'm like, Tim should be like, fuck you. I know. I've been cut before, Batman. Like, I know that I gotta go I don't want to get this infected. Like, come on. You don't need to tell me this.
And then he is teleported over to, I forget who is with Jubilee. I think it's Paige. It might be Monet or M. And all of a sudden he is with Generation X.
Just like in Jubilee's bedroom.
Yep.
Yeah. We also see that this is where I was like, okay, I'm a little bit more on board because it's not just heroes, it is everybody. We get J. Jonah Jameson, who is now the editor of the Daily Planet, and he is all up in Clark Kent's business, telling him how to do his job. That was great.
I don't know how Jameson, when transported to another universe, still had the money to buy the Daily Planet. I don't know how this happened. And ostensibly he's been there for a while, but I don't care.
I don't think he bought it. I think they allude to some new publisher that's bought the Daily Planet and put him in charge. So look, I don't think we are meant to know, but if we are meant to know, it's going to connect to everything else eventually. But I don't know.
Yeah.
This was around the time that Marvel was very heavy-handedly leaning into the Daily Bugle being like a cipher for working at Marvel. So it does seem like there's a little bit of symbolism because they lay off a bunch of their staff and they literally, it's all in Marvel, The Untold Story. They take a editor's resignation letter and just put it in an issue of Spider-Man.
Whoa, weird. Very weird. At this point, I'm very confused as to, are we just going to keep seeing both universes? Because I kind of thought we were going to get that single one merged universe from Amalgam Comics, but maybe we get that later. I don't know.
So I honestly don't know because I haven't read ahead and I haven't read spoilers, but my prediction, and people can laugh at me for 25 years in the future, is that between issues 3 and 4, there's 12 issues published by this thing called Amalgam Comics, which has Doctor Strange Fate and Captain America, as I don't even know what the fuck is going on. Superman and him switch places. I'm wondering if some event happens between issues 3 and 4 where the universes get merged is what I'm imagining happens.
Something like that. And it's all mixed up already, and I don't know. Really just everything's mixed up. What else do we get? Steel versus Absorbing Man. Clark Kent writes the worst piece of journalism I've ever seen.
Ooh, you should read Superman Earth 1 by J. Michael Straczynski if you want to see some bad Clark Kent writing. Where he interviews Superman and I would look at it as an editor-in-chief, I'd be like, we're not publishing this. This is this is not publishable. But Clark Kent is literally one of the worst writers I've ever heard.
He's bad. We get he meets photographer Peter Parker.
No, Ben Riley, but my pseudonym is Peter Parker, so just call me Peter. Who's paper over that? I love it.
Yep, and he's not dyeing his hair blonde, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, I love it though. This issue is not what I wanted, but I'm on board. If there's only 4 issues of DC versus Marvel, which I can't believe there's only 4 issues of this, and they wasted it on this.
Well, Amalgam is going to be, I think, all the rest of it. Of I guess.
Yeah,
Amalgam, not to spoil it, it's just going to be fun one shots. It's not going to be continuity.
Well, I think that's good. It's it's all the stories that would exist in this space during this event. But rather than try to give you just little snippets of it, let's just give them all their own one-shots, and that way you can experience the story for as long or as little as you want.
Yeah.
My favorite, and we may have to cover some Amalgam books, but my favorite is when Batman and Wolverine merge, they become Dark Claw for an issue. And then I think a year later, when they do sort of the second wave of Amalgam books, they do Dark Claw Adventures, which is based on a cartoon show about this character.
Oh, cool.
And it's great.
See, but that's mergers. What I want to see is just a Superman comic where Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson work at the planet. That's what I want to see. I want to see a whole issue of that, or I want to see that permeating the narrative. If Crisis on Infinite Earths was 12 issues long and really long, and spinning its wheels, this is what I want to see spinning its wheels of just what it looks like with characters from this universe's mixed together. I'd probably like something more cleaner, all the villains of one universe go to the other one, or the core heroes then have to interact with the supporting cast of the other characters. That would be cool. If it's suddenly Superman or Clark Kent at the Bugle with Robbie and Jameson and Mary Jane and Harry Osborn. I don't know how it would work for me. Where you choose to send who to the DC universe and who do you choose to send to the Marvel universe. I'm not sure how I would logistically do that if I was writing this.
Yeah, it was who on the X-Men gets sent. They were all hanging out and talking. It was Wolverine and Gambit and Storm get sent, but everyone else stays. But it all felt very random. There's not a lot that tied me into oh, okay, so these are the definitive okay, these people are in this universe.
It's weird because what you want to do is you want to see a pairing of Peter. You want to see a pairing of all the news people together, but which universe do you send them to? You know,
Right.
And then, like with the X-Men, you got to send half of them over, but then you're going to send half of the DC people over. So who do you want to interact with who, and how do you do that? Like, that's my question. You know, if I was trying to like plot this out, like that would be difficult for me.
Yeah, and to me, like, you know, so much of Marvel is based on the real world, which is, you know, it's one of the advantages of Marvel, I think. But it also means that stuff like the X Mansion is as much a character as like Gotham City, where if you sent, I don't know, somebody from the Teen Titans like Donna Troy to the X-Men, I feel like that would be at least a stronger, you know, narrative move than just have like Wolverine and like, oh, you're popular X-Men basically, and just be like, well, they're out of here. You know, if you're teaming up all the teen heroes together, which Teen Titans was kind of a ripoff of X-Men,
right?
At least giant size X-Men. So like that would be a natural move.
Yeah. So you know, still for me, too early to tell. I don't really know how I feel about this thing yet. I feel like it has barely gotten going into what it really is going to be. It's just like, hey, this is kind of what the story is going to be, but we don't know yet.
We don't know. It's going to be hero on hero because I know that there's going to be some voting.
Yeah, and I'm not excited about that, but
it's got good art, and also I can tell you, Vincent Kia, I did vote in this, and I will say my votes did. My votes mattered more so than any presidential election I've ever voted in.
That's accurate. That's accurate.
That's accurate. So did you read this whole thing, Chris? Did you pay $3.95?
Yeah, man. mowing lawns to read this.
I would have bought a whole Goosebumps book with this kind of money back in '96.
Well, yeah, I gotta see Spider-Man meet the Joker, dude. I gotta pay $3.95.
I don't understand how this isn't in constant publication. Also, like this is so fucking hard to find. It's not in print.
I think it's because of the legalities of who owns.
It's just the rights issues of like the trades. Like they print the trade once, and then they're like never again.
Yeah.
So it's just. I mean, it's just stupidity from the company's point of view.
Because you
but yeah,
this at Barnes and Noble, and people are like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna flip through this." Like that's what I would do.
Yeah.
You know, even today.
They would. They would sell it forever. They really would. And the other thing. So, like I said, once we get to the elections, we'll get to who I voted for later. The other bittersweet part was, did you guys read the editors instead of a letters page? There's just two letters from the editors.
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool, and it was also very sad because Mark Grunwald is the Marvel editor that wrote his like vote for Marvel pitch, and it's just like, oh, like I'm sure this was very exciting for him, and he'll be dead by the time this last issue comes out.
No.
Yeah, he died right around that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he involved with Captain America? Was that where I know his name from?
He wrote Captain America from like 1989 or something like that to like 1993 or 4.
Oh, that's so sad.
For a long time. But yeah, he basically had like a health problem and died in like his 50s. Like, it's very sad.
Yeah, I maybe have told you about this, but he wrote Squadron Supreme, and they spread his ashes into the ink, which was used to print the trade paperback version of Squadron Supreme. Which is
fucked up, but also kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't. I have a version that like very explicitly says second printing contains no ashes, which good to know. But I mean, have we gotten to anything else? We see the Spectre and the Living Tribunal, who are like, there is bigger things happening, and we'll see it later.
Yeah, we'll figure out what all that stuff means later.
Yeah. But that's about it. Oh, you know what surprised me most about this? On the voting page, they said you could email your votes in, and I was like, really? Back in 1996? I guess so. Like, I hadn't really thought about emailing back then, but it was a thing. They had 10 different email addresses saying, hey, send an email to the 5 people that you're going to vote for, which, hey, that works.
What? Oh, so they could probably just go through the inbox and like look.
Yeah, it's literally just an inbox they set up for this purpose.
Really amazing. Funny. And they were all at AOL.com. It was like AOL.
Of course they were. Keyword DC versus Marvel.
That's all there was, yeah.
This was, I think, a year after I was walking around the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and someone explained what the internet was to me. So I knew all about the internet. Did I have it at home? No. But I knew exactly what it was because someone helpfully explained it to me walking between museums. They had like a kiosk and everything.
Makes sense. All right. Well, that's that. I guess we'll find out more next time. Keep listening to the show. We're going to talk about Marvel versus DC too. Do we mention they alternate names back and forth? This one
Yes, we
did. This is DC versus Marvel. Next time it's Marvel versus DC number 2. Even though technically Marvel versus DC number 1 never existed. We've got Criminal Bad Weekend coming up next time. Hey, another modern comic. All right, into it. Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips. They're a writer-artist team that I've read a lot of stuff with. I
love Brubaker and Phillips. We've kind of gone off of them. They're the only writer-artist team that I feel like operates like traditional prose novels, where they just, like a John Grisham, where they just write whatever book they want to. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like they've been working together for almost 20 years, I feel like. And Sean Phillips also did like Marvel Zombies, but other than that, he's pretty much worked with Ed Brubaker outside of the superhero system for the last 20 years. They did Sleeper with Wildstorm, they did Criminal, they did I think, is it called Incognito? And then they did like The Fade Out, which is about like 1940s Hollywood, which is my comic of last decade. They did Fatal, they did Kill or Be Killed. They just write whatever narratives they want. They're done in 12 to 24 issues, and then they just go and write a completely different book, write and draw a different book together, which is so cool because nobody else does that in comics. Everybody's like working on like Walking Dead or Captain America, and they have like an 8-year run. And that's what I love about Brubaker and Phillips. And this is just a random story in the Criminal universe. I know me and Chris have read it. It's pretty short. It's an original graphic novel set, and it's just like a good crime noir book. They write a lot of good ones. It's really good. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
They're really cool. They're a really cool like team, and it's my dream that people follow writers and artists around rather than like characters. And like comic books, was Borders pretty much organized by like, this is the Captain America section, this is the Spider-Man section, rather than by writer.
Honestly, the graphic novel section was impossible to ever keep organized, so we kind of gave up on that early.
Fair.
Because I was gonna say my experience is they try to keep it alphabetical. That's about it.
Yeah, it was generally by title, which usually came down to character. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Brubaker and Phillips are a really good team. The Fade Out is what I'd highly recommend, but Bad Weekend is a good book, and I like it a lot. So we'll check that out next time.
All right, I'm excited. Anything else we got to talk about? Your Stupid Minds, are they still? Are you under quarantine? Or
we are still under quarantine, but we did do another wrestler movie. And it's been released already, so you can check out Mr. Nanny with Hulk Hogan, where a dog is thrown directly into the ocean, and also I guess a movie happens. I don't know.
I absolutely listened to that episode, Chris, and I could not tell you. I watched that movie multiple times. Not a goddamn thing I remembered from that movie.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I did a lot of research on who is this guy, Buster Poindexter. Apparently, he was a big deal before our times.
Yeah. There's a couple of wrestling movies I've been interested in watching. There's one out of Japan with one of these Japanese celebrities called My Dad is a Heel Wrestler, where this the little kid discovers that his dad dresses up as the Cockroach, and he's an evil bad guy wrestler, and he doesn't know how to handle it. Good stuff. I want to watch.
They did a really good episode, I think, in the early run of Your Stupid Minds. It was 13 rounds, Chris. Is that what it is, with John Cena? And
some amount of rounds,
and 9 rounds, and Littlefinger from Game of Thrones is the villain. It's produced by WWE, and yes. I think y'all came out really actually enjoying the movie.
Yes, it's directed by Rennie Harlow, who I think is a good director for that kind of garbage.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Great. So everybody go out and watch some wrestling movies. What else? Anything else worth talking about? I don't think
really.
so.
Happy birthday, Kia. I believe your birthday's coming up. Or maybe today when the episode's coming out.
When this episode drops, it will be my birthday. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Kia.
Thank you so much. If everyone who is listening simultaneously says "Happy birthday, Kia," I will manifest before your podcast.
Go say it in your bed. Go say it in your bathroom mirror. But use Kia's real name, Bloody Mary. Go say it 3 times in the mirror.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh yeah.
All right, it's time to go. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, Vince. I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you, Chris. I love you.
Wait, sorry, what?
All right, bye, everybody. Have a good night. Love you. Bye.